I don't see the top of your head. Hiding the
I
hair. No one wants that.
I don't know if you saw during the dance party, I was doing this.
I loved it. Welcome to the Media Odyssey. This is Evan Shapiro.
And that is Marianne Roche.
Today we have a busy schedule. We want to talk about TikTok because we all hoped it would be banned. It wasn't. It's not. And we're going to dive into the Q4 earnings from Netflix. Fabulous, a doozy. Jury's still out.
And then we're going to talk about MIP London, which is we got some big news to unveil about that later in the pod. So if you're one of those people who only listens to the intro, stick around because we're breaking some news a little bit later.
Okay, let's get started. So TikTok, I don't know about you. I wanted it gone. I'm not on TikTok, but I don't like this thing. I think it's a menace, but like many other social media networks, so a part of me wanted it to be gone, very selfishly. Now, I realized that for brands and creators, it would have been a bit of a nightmare. You're seeing more and more creators and brands investing on that platform. But yeah, that was what I wanted deep down, I have to admit.
Okay, so my response to that is, okay, boomer.
There's the guy who's a bar mitzvah older than me.
You're not on TikTok. You don't try TikTok, but you want it gone. And by the way, it wouldn't have been gone in France. It would have only been gone in the United States or
but
Amsterdam.
I would have hoped. Yeah.
So you're just wishing that it would go, despite the fact that you do not use it, you do not try it, and it would not have affected you in any way, shape, or form, which is pretty much how I feel about everybody's opinion about TikTok. And I understand there are national security concerns here. I do not want to try to belittle those concerns or poo-poo those concerns. But at the same time, I think Elon Musk is a much larger national security concern than TikTok is. He has our space agency by the cojones. He is taking money out of the government. He is shutting down satellite usage in the Ukraine at a whim. He is attacking the Brazilian government. He is a menace, and he owns the public square of Twitter, which I refuse to call X. And so, Elon, I'm going to do a Nazi salute at the inauguration and then gaslight you into thinking that I didn't do that thing I just did.
And that I have Asperger, and for some reason that explains anything. I mean.
He is, and by the way, then there's Mark Zuckerberg, who removed all moderation from Meta platforms this week to just prove, how big his schwanz is, because there's not enough masculinity in Meta at this point. Meanwhile, he looks like my grandmother after a perm. So, I understand people's concerns about TikTok, but at the same time, this is a bit about free speech. And so I have two minds of this. I've publicly come out there. I'm like, on one hand, I think it should be banned. On the other hand, I don't think it should be banned. And so I do think there's a level of nuance that you can bring to a conversation. And I hate that Orange Julius Caesar saved TikTok at the last moment and is going to get credit for that. But at the same time, I also think he did, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, the right thing, because let's take a beat here for a second.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong.
A deal to save this platform, which has become, to your point, an enormous, business asset to small businesses in the U.S., an enormous asset to creators in the U.S., and frankly, I think one of the most important homes to original thought and creation that exists.
To be honest, I want Twitter gone, and Facebook. I'm very, anti-social media. I only use LinkedIn for business, and thought leadership. I've stayed clear of TikTok, Instagram. I could have gone to Twitter and, kind of replicate my LinkedIn strategy. I did not, because to the point you were making, I don't want to feed that beast, right? And on top of the national concern, national security concern, I have worries about, health concern, and I have young kids, and I don't want them anywhere near this thing. So anywhere near Instagram and the other. So
Yeah, one of
call
the
me a
things I'm
boomer, but I
yeah.
think
One of the things I'm most happy about is that I had kids. My wife and I had kids very, very
exactly.
early, and we basically escaped. We avoided the social media aspect until very late in both of my kids' education lives, and so we held them off from it as long as we possibly could. So I agree with a ton of your concerns. That said, I also don't think people should be able to smoke or drink too much. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
think
true.
people should be able to gamble endlessly. Like, we can't police all of the things that we think are wrong with the world just because we disagree with how they're operated.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think, I was actually kicked off of Twitter by Elon for making fun of him.
Are you kidding?
No. And so, and I was addicted to Twitter. I was hardcore addicted to Twitter. And anybody who used to follow me on Twitter knows that about me. I have deleted all my Meta platforms.
Yeah, you mentioned.
I'm not on, I am not on, I'm secretly on WhatsApp, although no more secretly, just because I have to communicate with people, and it's a very useful tool.
I saw you saying, send me a text. And yesterday I reached out to you and I said, he's still on WhatsApp.
Yeah. So, but I don't understand how WhatsApp makes money, so I'm okay with that. But I'm not. I deleted my Instagram account. I deleted my Threads account. I haven't had Facebook in 5 years. I am on Blue Sky, which is a fucking hot mess. Like, it is just
from a
terrible.
product perspective.
Yeah, it's a terrible product. It's just a terrible product. You can't post a video longer than 1 minute. Tagging people is like an exercise in word Jenga. It is a shitty product. And I don't really understand how the algorithm works there, and I find it a burden. So yeah, I'm like you. I'm on LinkedIn almost exclusively for social media, and then I post something on LinkedIn, about, let's say, politics, because I do that here and there, and people are like, "This isn't Facebook." I'm like, "Okay, boomer."
Leave me to it.
Everything is politics now, as TikTok proves. Like, you can't separate business and politics anymore. When the heads of Twitter, Amazon, Google, Apple, and Meta are all in the first row at the inauguration, and they're all throwing parties for, this guy. Business and politics are intertwined. One of Trump's first moves was to set up Sam Altman as the head of the AI policy for the United States, and then now he has a department of meme coins, which is only there to profit him. So, like, these things are intertwined, and if you're not prepared to have conversations about governance and civics and politics on LinkedIn, hey, guess what? Get off LinkedIn. That you're not welcome.
Yeah. So what's going to happen next? Because Kenny actually technically, he just extended for 75, 90 days. Yeah. So who's going to buy TikTok? Who's going to invest in TikTok?
That's a great question. I think the Mr. Beast collective has a real shot. He put together a bunch of he put together a bunch of billionaires. Someone posited something really interesting to us earlier today, which is Netflix buys TikTok. And I predicted in my top 10 predictions of the year that Netflix is going to open up a creator-led free section of Netflix by year's end, that they'll announce it by year's end. They may not be able to have that product ready by year's end, but I think they'll announce it by year's end, most notably to serve their ad business, because they're realizing that their ad business needs a free front porch in order to operate. Also, if you look at their programming moves in the last 90 days, Jake Paul slap fighting an old man around a boxing ring. He's a YouTuber. Sidemen being bought off of YouTube. Ms. Rachel just this week, the biggest kids entertainer on YouTube, now getting a series on Netflix. They are clearly leaning into the creator economy, and they're basically just stealing YouTube's programming model.
Yeah.
So I think Netflix, who is now at their all-time high valuation at $400 billion, $400 billion, and now worth as much as Disco Brothers, Paramount, Fox, I think, and Disney combined.
Yeah.
They have the cash now to buy TikTok for $50 billion. And
so that's the question, right? So I've seen numbers floating 20 billion to 100 billion.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, look, it's a seller who doesn't want to sell, so you're gonna have to you're gonna have to sweeten the pot a little bit in order to get the Chinese government, ByteDance, on board. And so you're gonna have to overpay for it. And I think I think it's a $50 billion price if it's a penny, and I think it might go as high as $100 billion if you're going to get into a competitive bidding situation, which we are. You've got Frank McCourt, you've got Mr. Beast, you've got Elon Musk, who probably has to be considered in the pole position, considering he is the first lady, advisor to the president. So, I also think, don't be surprised, if Meta gets a chance. Like in a previous administration, no way does Meta get to buy ByteDance, but they could now, although the EU might have something to say about that. I think Larry Ellison, who is going to own Paramount soon, and Oracle, that could be one. Don't sleep on Microsoft. Remember, Microsoft, they offered $50 billion for it back in the day.
Yeah, I remember, right?
When Trump wanted TikTok banned.
Trump 1.0, era 1.
Right, yeah. So, Microsoft is the second most valuable company in the history of humankind. They have a lot of cash on hand. They could buy it with the change that's in the couch cushions in their executive washroom. And why do they have a couch in the executive washroom? That's really weird. But yeah, I think that it's hard to know who's going to wind up with it. But I think the sleeper here is Netflix. I think wasn't my idea. Pesach gave us that idea earlier today, and I think there's a good chance that's a good one. I like that one.
So I see the appeal and what it would bring to the two. And actually, I don't know if it's at the back of last year, Sarandos or Hastings started talking about TikTok and how they want to use it, more to actually push their brand, their content, etc.
And TikTok is doing 6x Netflix's ad business right now.
Yeah.
So you jumpstart your ad business, like, boom, you have an ad business.
This is a company that's, we spoke last week about companies not so much in the business of buying others, like Apple. And I feel like Netflix is there as well, right?
Yeah, but okay, so let's transition here a bit into our next topic, which is Netflix's earnings, which were stellar, this week. They're not so much into buying stuff anymore, but okay, so they had a tremendous earnings report, great results, net income up, almost 100%.
Yeah.
Now, remember, it's easy to grow on a very small base. So they had under $1 billion of net revenue a year ago. And so, I'm much taller than I was in kindergarten is the number. But they had 16% subscription growth. They had massive revenue growth, all good numbers for them. However, this is the last quarter they're ever going to tell us their sub numbers. Marianne, tell me why they're going to stop reporting sub numbers. Why is that? All of a sudden, they've decided, after making subs and then screaming 300 million subs in their earnings report a couple of days ago, but now we're going to stop reporting subs.
What about engagements?
Why is that?
What about engagements and monetization? And I don't know. It feels weird that this was such a big. It feels like a big send off. So I don't know if they worked twice as hard to gain those subs and.
They did. Beyonce Bowl, Jake Paul, Squid Game, all in fourth quarter. All in fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Huh. The last time they're going to report sub numbers. Yeah. They are so good at the shiny object school of business communication.
Yeah.
There's never been anybody better at it. Look over here.
Don't look over really good at that.
Over here. Don't look over here.
I wonder if they have Netflix socks for that 300 million mark, because I had those socks for Roku, the 50 million active account socks.
Yeah.
I had those. I wonder if they had the same. But yeah, when you're looking at the numbers,
Or were there bonus criteria in the contracts of senior management at Netflix for hitting 300 million subscribers?
possible. It was
Possible,
interesting.
possible, probable,
Yeah,
likely.
It was the last time that they shared subscriber numbers, and for the first time, they started talking about their TAM, their total addressable market. Right? They don't speak about that often, but I was always saying, yes, we have this big number, but there's so much more to come. We have so much more room to grow, because they were saying we're, revenue wise, we're only 6% of global revenues. TV viewing time, only 10%. So much is going to happen next. I'm not so sure. It's going to keep growing.
Well, so the big reason they're not gonna, I'm gonna answer my own question since you refuse to. The big reason that they're gonna stop reporting sub numbers is all of their growth over the last 24 months in subscribers came from one thing, which is the password sharing, service sharing lockdown. And if you want to share with your family members, it is so expensive to do that now. And there is some discontent with their subscribers over the quality of their content. I mean, I like certain shows.
Yeah, we spoke about that. I agree.
Yeah, there's sometimes you log on, you just can't find something to watch. And I think they know that they're going to start losing subscribers, basically, since they can no longer keep cracking down on password sharing, which is where most of their growth has come from over the last 24 months. Since that is now at an end, they know they're going to start the churn is going to go up, and that they're going to start to lose subscribers, especially younger subscribers, which is why I think they're going to buy TikTok. But
I don't think that's the only reason. I did respond to your question. I said focus on engagement and monetization. And I think it's also because
bullshit. We know that's bullshit, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, right? We know that what matters, so it matters to have subscribers. What matters, and especially if you're trying to build not just a premium business, but an hybrid business on which you have advertising, that, scale is important, but time spent and how you monetize that time spent is important. So that's where I think that's also
their ad business has
reasons.
really gotten off to a dramatically slow start, and they're it's not material. Their advertising business is not material enough for them to report the numbers. They don't report the number of ad tier subscribers in their earnings, and they don't report the revenues from advertising in their numbers
yet. They don't break it down.
Your own CFO has said it is going to take some time before that number becomes material enough for us to report. So
they didn't seem excited about advertising. Okay, I listened to it at 11 p.m. Note for these guys. A bit earlier would be nice for the European folks. I was in bed listening to it. That's the kind of work that we have to do. But so talking about making a bit of an estimate, right? So we've seen the numbers from Disney, 167 million monthly active users. They were really transparent, right? So they're saying behind every account, we estimate 2.6. An active user is someone who spent more than 10 seconds with us on average, the last 6 months. So if you apply, a similar thinking, let's just say you have 2 folks maybe behind every account. We're looking at 100 million monthly active users for Netflix, right?
About that, yeah.
Which is 30 million gross year on year.
Yeah, no,
not so bad. Not so
bad.
No,
but where are those subscribers? So, if you look at where their subscribers came from, they had growth in every segment and every region of the world.
We were the first 5 million in Europe.
Yeah, but US and Canada, North America is the least growth of all this, and it has been for years.
Yeah, now. For years. Yeah, you have 80 million or so. We're over 100 million subs in EMEA. So,
and this is the most important. All due respect to, well, actually, no respect to Europe. this is the most important television market in the world,
Yeah.
especially the most important advertising television market in the world, and they're not where they should be.
Yeah,
As far
they're increasing prices, huh?
right, right, which is another
In that
reason why their
market.
return is going to
Yeah.
go up.
And for
Um,
Portugal, I want to know why. It's like USA, Canada, Argentina, Portugal. I'm assuming those two markets are really bad and tough to monetize on the advertising side, would be my guess.
I also think because of the number of rich people who have bought golden visas in Portugal over the last 2 years.
A lot of Americans, and my sister lives in Lisbon.
Right,
Huh?
exactly. That's exactly right.
Stay
So
in
a
the
lot of
US, guys.
American, a lot of rich people have moved
Mm,
to Lisbon over the last couple of years, and I
yeah,
think they actually, see an opportunity there. Yeah, I just, you know, they're they have a great business. They're the best television channel probably in the history of humankind. So I'm going to put that out there. Netflix. I've said that aloud, and they are entirely full of shit. They just are so obfuscational with their information. They're very untransparent.
yeah.
And so, the whole reason that they're going to stop reporting sub numbers. And by the way, now everybody else is going to follow them and stop
Yeah,
reporting
they're
numbers
gonna
too.
follow suit
It's
soon
just going to
enough. Yeah,
make
yeah,
our analysis
yeah,
that much more difficult, which is the point of stop reporting
yeah.
sub numbers. But on the flip side, the way they amortize their content is unlike any other
Mm,
media company in the history of media.
yeah.
They amortize their content over a decade. And no, if I tried to do that when I was at Comcast or AMC Networks, they would have kicked my ass out the door, which they did anyway, but that's beside the point. Their accounting, the way they report their numbers, the way they talk about themselves is incredibly untransparent, and
Yeah,
it's on purpose.
yeah.
And if they had to account for content the way NBCU does, the way that Disney does, the way that Fox does, their profit margins would not look the same.
Mm.
And by the way, everybody in the business knows this, and we all kind of let them slide on it. It never comes up. No, they never get asked it by analysts on their earnings call. So this is me. I don't listen to their earnings call because it's just difficult to listen
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
You're
I did
full of
it,
shit.
but
Yeah.
so
I read the transcripts
yeah,
afterward, and then I read their earnings reports.
that's what I
And
tend to do as well. So on the call, it was quite fascinating how they downplayed the impact of live sports in Q4. So any idea why? What's the reason behind that for you?
I can give you two reasons for that. First of all, remember when they weren't going to do sports and now they're doing
Yeah, yeah.
sports. Remember when they weren't going to do ads and now they're
Mm,
doing ads. So I
yeah.
think, on one hand, they really do want to kind of downplay the importance this is going to have. And I
Mm,
think they're also out there negotiating for sports rights. So
yeah.
they don't want to kind of give the sports rights owners a reason to bulk up the price, which they're going to do anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna do it anyway. When you're showing, biggest quarter ever in terms of sub acquisition, the quarter where they had the most sports.
Yeah, I also think, to be fair to them, I don't think they had that big of impact. So if you look at Nielsen, grain of salt, and you look at time spent with the platform over the last 3 years, Netflix's usage, including fourth quarter of this year in the US, is flat or down. This includes this fourth quarter where they had Squid Game and boxing and Beyonce Bowl. And then you look at YouTube at the same time, by the way, and it's growing up. So
Yeah,
YouTube is the
absolutely.
number one channel out there. This is the same story in the UK, by the way. And so I think they're downplaying it because one day's worth of viewing doesn't really
Mm,
matter to their total engagement. I imagine Squid Game had a substantially higher impact for them in fourth quarter than Jake Paul or Beyonce did. And also, it's worth noting that the Christmas Day football games plus the Beyonce Bowl did a big number. It broke the record
mm.
for live sports streaming. Again, you have to take the slap fight out of that because that's not really sports. But it broke the record that Peacock set a year ago for their playoff game. However, it was also close to 20% down from the same games on Christmas Day on CBS
the
year
year
ago.
before. Yeah. So a few things. They're saying that they're not interested in packages, regular season. There's nothing to buy in the US anyway, not much left. So I think, let's see if that changes. I see this, if it's more, one-offs, for sure, it doesn't do much in terms of the engagement overall. So it's more of an acquisition engine, right? And you've seen data from
and
Antenna.
advertising.
Yeah.
If you have those days, those events,
Yeah, for
you can
sure.
sell very expensive ads in there.
Advertising, acquisition. You've seen data from folks at Antenna or Ampere trying to assess the impact. And you're looking at Jake Paul, supposedly 1.5 million subs acquired through that game. Like a third of that, closer to 600K for the Christmas game, which I thought was quite surprising. But you'll tell me.
Surprising low or surprising high?
It was low, but
that's because
it felt low.
But you have to understand, like, Netflix in the US has a bigger audience and a bigger install base than basic cable.
Yeah.
So, everybody who wanted to watch that game
they had Netflix already.
Yeah. And I think of the people who signed up to watch the slap fight, and of the people who signed up to watch the Beyonce Bowl and the NFL games, I imagine the vast majority of those people canceled.
Yeah. And so,
not the vast majority, but a sizable chunk of them canceled afterwards, especially after the slap fight, because it didn't work very well. And it was a disappointing.
The challenge I think they're going to have is I think both events, what I've seen is minor impact outside of the US, right? I would be surprised. I'm keen to see the data saying that it actually boosts acquisition in any of the European markets in a substantial way. I don't buy that. So they will see what they've seen with originals is that you got to go local, and perhaps with sports even more so. We don't really care about American football. So
I don't blame you. I don't care about soccer. I think what's interesting, you made this point, I think a couple of pods ago about FIFA, women's FIFA. And I think that'll have a substantial bigger impact globally. And it was, I think, to your point that you made back then, like, I think that's probably the smartest sports move that they made. I'm curious what they think the John Mulaney live talk show is going to do for that. I don't imagine.
And the WWE outside of the US
actually will have a big effect.
You
think? Actually, yeah. I think there are a lot of people who don't have Netflix or, who have been sharing Netflix accounts. WWE is not the biggest audience in the world, but it is the most engaged.
Yeah, that's true.
And they really, and I can't remember who said this to me recently, and it might have been someone that we were talking to together. But I think that's, WWE, and I hate to break this news to fans of WWE, is basically a scripted drama.
Yeah, it's entertainment. No, we haven't spoken about that, but yes, that's what most sports commentators have said about that.
Yeah, it's a soap opera. And it's on every week. It
works well with them.
And every week, and every week, and every week, and every week. So that, to me, as a retention and acquisition tool, is, again, I think one of the smarter things that they've done is the WWE. I think that's, other than the fact that, putting more money into Vince McMahon's dirty pockets is a bad thing. I thought it was a really brilliant. He's a bad dude. Like, of all the bad dudes that we've talked about on this pod today, and we've talked about a lot of them,
there's a lot of bad dudes.
Yeah. And they're mostly dudes too.
Think about that. How about, do you think they could go for UFC, or is it too similar?
Well, the UFC contract is
up this year.
Yeah. So I think they might. Same company, right? And so and now Dana White is now also
at the White House.
So Sarandos, who's notably an Obama stan, could use a little MAGA cred, and you could putting money in Dana White's pocket could really help him get a seat to the next inauguration if he wanted it. I don't think Ted
I
is a
don't think
fan.
he would. Ted is
Yeah.
better than that.
But regulatorily speaking,
Yeah.
what this White House
To
has
buy TikTok.
demonstrated is if you don't pay me, you ain't getting what you want.
Yeah, if you don't pay me in Bitcoin.
Meme coin, yeah. So all right. So I think we've covered the heck out of Netflix there. And I think
there's one more.
I will never, ever get to interview a Netflix executive live on stage, but go ahead.
No, it's the stab they took at folks who have the distraction of having to manage.
This is why I don't feel bad about going hard at Netflix as hard as I do. They gave the most major fuck you to traditional media in their earnings call. They're like, these are our earnings. And luckily, we are not distracted by running legacy media out there. They didn't say like everybody else in Hollywood, but they basically
could have. Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're not going to report our sub numbers anymore.
Yeah.
So it was like, fuck you, drop the mic, slam the door, set the house on fire. And I've rarely seen senior management stick up their middle finger at the rest of the way that they did on that earnings call. Have you?
That was entertaining. That was really entertaining. And honestly, okay, fair enough.
Your CFO who said that, right?
It's Ted, no?
Was it Ted?
I think so.
Yeah. He's also the one who stood in front of the audience at RTS, Royal Television Society, last fall and said, I believe in more transparency in television.
Yeah. But
and he and I used to be friends, and I've done deals with him, and I like Ted. I genuinely like him as a person, but as a representative of their company, I just feel like they're just so full of baloney.
Yeah. But so one thing that they shouldn't go, one of the reasons why they shouldn't go there is that the biggest weakness in their business is the fact that they only have this one business. They have nothing else. So actually, yes, maybe the others, the linear business is a liability, not an asset. But they have other businesses, other verticals. They do not. And so 5-10 years from now, that's going to be a problem. And other people who have a 360 strategy will give them the finger, I think.
Yeah, it all comes home to roost at some point.
Yeah.
I started my semester at NYU last night, and I was talking about, I had my map on up on screen.
On stage. I love
it. Everything's a performance.
Yeah, everything is a stage, even this room, even your room.
Right. It's very well staged.
Mm-hmm.
I said, when I was your age, everybody had a Walkman and everybody had a Sony Trinitron. And now Sony doesn't have a portable music business and doesn't really have a television business. Or they do, but let's be serious. It's not a serious business. And everything changes. Those who are on top today or, 20 years ago, they're going to find themselves looking at a different angle, 10 years from now. And the amount of hubris presented in that earnings call was, it's just, it will come home to roost at some point. Now, that said, I've spent a lot of time betting against Netflix in the last 5 years publicly. And I've, not really been right all that much. So we'll see. I mean, if they have the ability to continue to pivot, they, remember, they used to deliver discs through the mail.
I do.
So, this is a business that has adapted and transformed pretty well over time. That said, the last major innovation that Netflix has made was streaming.
Yeah. Yeah, we spoke about that a few weeks ago. I was missing the boldness, the innovation from these guys.
Their boldness is now in their words as opposed to their actions.
Okay, so we're done for today, but we have an announcement, right?
Yeah, we're breaking news.
Forgetting this one right now. So for those who know us, follow us, you've seen us together in bars and at dinners, which says a lot about us, but never on stage. Only once we were on stage, but kind of remotely. I was on stage and you were in the back doing your keynotes at a tough time in your life. I mean, like, I was impressed that you still did this thing. I'm sure everyone was as well.
So that was MIPCOM 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Well, 18 months ago. So
18 months ago,
yeah, time flies.
So you were hosting the FAST Summit at MIPCOM, and I was supposed to have done that, but I got cancer, not on purpose, and I was in the hospital, and so yes, I presented from the hospital, Memorial Sloan Kettering, at I think 3 a.m. or 6 a.m.
It was insane. I would not have done that.
And that's the only time we've shared a stage until
in a month's time, where we'll be in London for MIP London. So, Evan, do you want to talk?
The first MIP London ever. So they moved MIP TV to London in February, which is exactly when you want to be in
London. Yeah.
But yeah, so the first ever MIP London is the end of next month, end of February, 24th through the 27th. And we there will be doing our first live podcast in front of an audience. It won't be streamed live, but it will be performed live. On stage at MIP London on February 26th. And it'll be the first time you and I have physically ever shared a stage together.
Yeah, the first of many, I'm sure. And so for anyone who wants to come, we're actually speaking at the end of the day, right? Which means, a half an hour of a pod with us, and then we'll go have cocktails and
then you'll see us at the bar.
Fun. Yeah, you'll see us at a bar again. Exactly. So,
and we're going to be talking about the state of, content, the content economy at this moment in time. Who's greenlighting what or not greenlighting what, how sports influences greenlights, the new state of production, both in the U.S. and around the world, the new economics around production, how AI will affect production as well. So, if TV production, greenlights, and series and films and sports are something that you're interested in, or you just like us, come see us February 26th at MIPCOM, our first live podcast at the first ever MIP London.
London.
It's going to be exciting.
Exciting. Very, very exciting.
I'm very excited. Yeah,
okay, cool.
So, I think this was a great episode. Yet again, Marianne, your newsletter is named
Streaming Made Easy on Substack. Join the fun.
And my newsletter is Media War and Peace, everywhere you get your Substack newsletters, which is only on Substack.
On Substack.
And thanks once again. The reaction from you guys has been terrific. Thanks so much for listening. And we'll see you or you'll hear us in a week.
See you next week.